Just to give a little context, so everybody is aware, because I know we're in Brooklyn, the National Hip Hop Museum is actually the world's first hip hop museum. We opened in 2019 in Washington, D.C. with the world's largest collection of hip hop artifacts and memorabilia. And our mission is to preserve, educate, and archive the legacy of hip hop, America's largest export, culturally and financially. Today, we have a work of art, a film that changed America and the world forever. The fact that our executive director is Master G of the Sugar Hill Gang, it's not lost on me that Rapper's Delight was a shot heard around the world. That song awakened us to a genre and a culture that many people weren't aware of. But to a greater extent, and even further extent, going across the globe to Japan and Europe and all over, was a movie that we all know and love called Wild Side. 873 phone calls later, many not returned emails, we have assembled the greatest hip-hop icons in the history of hip-hop to honor and chat with. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to our executive director, Master G, to say a few words before we kick off the first half of our podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the National Hip Hop Museum induction ceremony of the greatest hip-hop movie in the history of hip-hop. Wild Style, give it up. So I am proud to say that I am the executive director of the Hip Hop Museum. I am a resident of the DMV. Jeremy Beaver and I do a lot of business together. I really have taken upon this position as a labor of love. With us, of course, Mike Hank and myself, having a lot to do with bringing hip-hop to the world, I felt it was my responsibility to continue to perpetuate that motion. So with that being said, this is something that really means a whole lot to myself and everybody that's here today. And this is something that folks don't understand. Hip-hop is a way of life. When I first started making records, we were just bringing it to the world. Now, the world comes to us. You feel what I'm saying? Every corner of the globe. I've been literally from Maine to Spain. I've been, former USSR. I've been to Japan. I've been and everywhere in the world, people love what was created here in the New York metropolitan area, and it's truly a phenomenal experience. So what I want to crux of the information is going to be distributed here. There's so many different things that need to be known. This culture, there are people today that don't even know and understand what the beginning of this music is like. So that's another reason why this right here, what we're doing, is so important. To preserve it so those that don't know finally know and understand. And with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to my man, Jay Quan, our hip-hop historian. Give him a hand. Thank you. Congratulations to all the inductees. Y'all have a wonderful, phenomenal evening.
All right. Good evening to everybody. 40 years. Wow, style. It's pretty breathtaking to be here with legends. I want to kick off a podcast and get some information from the scene group up here. I want to start off with Charlie Ahern, the director, for the first question. Charlie, I want you to briefly describe, and I know it's also briefly, but the earliest beginnings of Wild Style.
I would say a meeting in Times Square in 1980 between myself and Fab Five, who's right here next to me, Fab Five Freddy. A conversation took place in which Fred was looking for the guy that did this kung fu movie in Lee's neighborhood, because he was working with Lee. And he said, "Where is this guy that did this movie? I want to do a movie with him." And his friend Diego Cortez pointed me out, and he came over to me, and he said, "What's up? I have this idea that it would be really cool to make a movie about hip-hop and graffiti." Now, Fred could tell you this story better than me, but I'll just say that that was the kernel. And I was already obsessed with Lee Quinones as a street culture hero, as an outlaw graffiti writer. And I immediately took to Fred and what his vibe was about the culture and street culture that was coming soon. And it was the next morning, a meeting that Fred and Lee did a mural. They busted out a Fab Five on the wall in Times Square without permission. That was our first no permission work for the movie. Everything we did for Wild Style was done without permission. Can you dig that?
One.
I felt that at that moment that this was going to be a culture that was going to sweep around the world, and that I wanted to make the teen art movie that was going to bring it to them. Thank you.
You did that.
Next question is for Fab Five Freddy. I know you had a very influential, interesting group of people that you roll with. I want to know how your TV party affiliation and your other affiliations, how did they intersect with Wild Style? Because you have a lot of similarities, it seems like, so how did they intersect?
Yeah, the TV Party was a public access, underground, once a week TV show that Glenn O'Brien, rest in peace, hosted. I met Glenn. He was a writer for Interview magazine and a cultural, power player on the downtown scene. And when I met Glenn and got invited to be a part of the TV show, be a regular guest, and then I was a cameraman, Glenn was like a mentor and advisor. And then I met Chris Stein, who was at the time the partner of Debbie Harry, and they were the nucleus of Blondie. So when I'd meet all these cool people, I'd tell them these ideas, and they were very supportive. And Chris was like, "Oh yeah, it's a great idea. It's a good idea to make this movie." And they all helped and gave great advice. Chris worked on the soundtrack that, luckily, when we were doing the music, this was before the idea of sampling is invented, and I wanted to use all the original breakbeats that these geniuses, Theodore and all these guys used, but Charlie was like, you know, I think we should make our own music, which turned out to be a good idea, else there would be no Wild Style. We wouldn't be able to pay. So Charlie was like, that was one of the jobs that I had to do, was go and figure out a way to make these original break beats, and Chris Stein added effects and sound under my direction. And so those guys were all really helpful. In fact, that's how I got to know Patty, who was a underground movie star at the time in underground films, and she had just started an art gallery that I was going to be the second one to show. The gallery became the Fun Gallery, but she heard there was a part in this film, and she aggressively wanted to get the role. She was campaigning, and I said, Charlie, man, what do you think? He said, all right. And Patty got the role.
Wow. Incredible. All right, so for the soundtrack, you can talk about the original beats that Chris Stein made.
No, I made the beats. Chris was like a musician. So Chris was a guitar player, but he had all these effects and pedals to do different things that he always wanted to play around with. So the different sounds on the Wild Style thing, I put the beats together, and I didn't know what I was doing. So I got a drummer first to lay the drum beat down. Later I learned you're supposed to have the drums and the bass together. I was like, So I got a guy who was actually another guy from TV Party, a guy by the name of Lenny Ferrari. He was the TV Party drummer, and Lenny laid down the drum tracks for me. And then I got another guy to do the bass, and then, you know, got Chris to come in and put different sound effects on the records.
So of course we know the soundtrack is incredible and iconic, but the single like Down by Law was a favorite of his.
Yeah, so the idea was, I made about 12 different little short breakbeat type tracks, and I was hoping that different DJs were gonna pick a different track. So when we pressed up the 100 copies of these white label records, I went to each one of the DJs, went to Theodore, went to Charlie Chase and Tony Tone, AJ, and gave everybody 2 copies. But I can't remember who it was first, but somehow when they heard that another one of the groups had picked Down by Law, they said, well, I'm using Down by Law too. And I was like, anyway, it just became a thing where they all loved Down by Law, and they decided they was gonna do their thing with Down by Law. So it was Down by Law. It was Down by Law.
I love the way that the cold crush kind of slowed down by Law. Everybody else got to a certain tempo, and you guys came on the pull-out attention, and the JBL comes on a slower tempo. My question to you is, as an MC and a DJ, what was it about Down by Law for you and the cold crush that made you want to run to and slow it down? I thought that was brilliant.
I mean, well, first of all, we got, when Freddie made the beats and gave us the original, like, acetate for the beats, we heard all the instrumentals first. And when we were doing the soundtrack, we got to pick what, you know, we wanted to rhyme off of, and everybody wanted to rhyme off of Down by Law. I mean, that shit, boom, 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 boom. That was it. Everything else was cool beats, like background music in the song, the joint Theodore scratching on and on, butter. But to rhyme, the MC, to like get your shit off, Down by Law was it.
I would like to add,
responsible for that.
I'm sorry, Kaz. I would like to add, the first time I heard that expression, Down by Law, used, it was Rodney C. He probably doesn't remember this, but I had met him at a party, and I knew who he was, and I was just talking to him, and I mentioned somebody, and he says, oh, they Down by Law, and it just sounded incredible, like some official government stamp. I was like, shit, Down by Law. Rodney probably don't remember that.
I actually don't remember it, but it sounds like something I would say.
Okay, I'm gonna take it back. We was at the Eastern Parkway Labor Day, and y'all, you had the jacket on with the with this Cold Crush.
Funky Four.
Funky Four, I'm sorry. And bugging. And we talked. I was kicking it with you.
Right.
And I mentioned somebody, and you said, oh yeah, so-and-so's Down by Law. That's official. I was like, wow, okay.
Well, that was the word at the time. You know what I mean? Like we said, the joint, and, you know, That was just the word at the time, and that didn't. Because Down by Law came from them kids that come out of your building, Theodore.
Oh, okay.
Right? In the basement, them guys that was calling Down by Law. The DBL crew.
Ah.
Right? DBL crew came. What was them guys that did the music for y'all? The Jamaican kids and them.
Trevor?
Trevor and them. Wasn't that the Down by Law crew? Okay, that's where it came from.
Thank you.
Chief Busy Bee, I'd like to ask you, recall for us real quick, we'll be briefing the first time that you met Charles. Tell us how that interaction.
Tell him
You know, everybody for me, everybody, he was the only white man in the neighborhood. So, you know, they look for me. I'm a black guy and the white guy, I thought he was the police. I thought the police was looking for me. I'm ducking and dodging them. He's talking about, hey, y'all seen Busy Bee? I'm ducking and dodging. I'm like, I'm scared to death. And then he got Fred with him, and they look like the Blues Brothers. They got on these dark glasses, and they stand there looking, and I'm scared to death. He said, you seen Busy Bee? And I'm like, shit, fuck that, I ain't Busy Bee. And then he bumped into me, and he said, and I was scared to death. He said, hey, Busy, my name is Charlie Ahern, and I'm here with Fred, and you just did, we want to do a movie with you. I said, you ain't the police? He said, no, what do you think I'm the... He said, my name is Charlie. So I ran, I didn't even let him say no more. I just ran on the stage and said, hey, this is Charlie Ahern. Yeah, everybody was doing this the damn police, get ready to start some shit. So I had to calm everybody down real fast. Hey, it's Charlie Ahern. He gonna do a movie on hip hop. We gonna be in it. And then it was on from there.
So Patty, before you got the role as Virginia in this film, what, if anything, did you know about this burgeoning culture? What do you even call hip hop then? What did you know about it at the time?
Well, I have to say that I'm a film actress, and by the time that I did meet Fab Five, I had done like 10 underground movies, and Fab, in his relentless mission to bring hip-hop to the world, had come down to the East Village, and I happen to have a movie called Underground. And I had a movie called Underground USA that was a punk rock Sunset Boulevard.
Hey, excuse me. Could y'all keep it down, please?
Yeah, can I have quiet on the set, please?
All right, that's cool, but everybody in here, just shut the fuck up.
Okay. All right. So anyway, I was already like the queen of the downtown screen, and then Fab Five came down and saw Underground USA, and we met at a cocktail party, and that was it. I was the magical mystery tour of rap music, breakdancing, graffiti art, and emceeing and DJing was all opened up to me, and Fred said I was down by law, so that was it.
Crazy Legs. I had a conversation with Charlie a few years ago. He was telling me he was going around the Bronx talking about making this movie, and he mentioned people that, he got some trouble from people like this passe in the Bronx at the time. I guess this was probably around 81, 82, like breaking people. It was kind of something that wasn't going on. Can you speak to that as far as you have any knowledge of that? And tell me a little bit about the timeline, the trajectory of it coming back.
We were, actually breaking was dead by 79. So as I kept going and got better, a lot of people who used to break before me would frown upon us and be like, oh, y'all still getting your clothes dirty? And I'm like, at the time it's hard because I was a lot younger than them, maybe not a lot, but maybe 2 or 3 years younger. And they moved on to like chasing girls, and me and my dudes are just trying to break and battle each other and go to jams and get recognized. But I would say the reason why breaking really got, other than what we did organically in the streets by finding other crews and or teaching other people who weren't aware of it or helping other people to be better than they were. I mean, because let's face it, the skills in the Bronx were just better at that time. So anywhere I was going, my level was already a lot higher than a lot of people. So I was able to teach a lot of people that I battled, bring them on with me. They kind of used me as like a mercenary b-boy where if they got smoked by somebody else, they brought me to go battle that person. So I was being used. And we ended up, you know, there was a point where Rocksteady was getting so big, some people would fall off and form other crews. And some of the people in the crew would be like, yo, Legs, that's fucked up. Like, these dudes joined that other crew. I'm like, yeah, but that means there's more people to battle now. So it's like, you gotta let that happen.
I mean,
there's a turnover rate in crews all the time. So as we kept battling, more crews started to pop up. We started doing doing shows because of Henry Chalfant. And let me, just so everyone knows, by design, you know, well, first, culturally, what we do organically, it just happens. So, you know, it's weird because we say who created hip hop and who didn't, but, you know, people of color are people who respond to the beat no matter what. So we're always gonna do what we do by nature. But when you look at someone like Henry Chalfant, who curated the first event downtown that put on display breaking, graffiti, DJing, and MCing, you know, and that was called Graffiti Rock. It was done at the Kitchen Center for Performing Arts. He was the one who put us on stage. In the audience, you saw Basquiat, Andy Warhol, Keith Haring, a lot of downtown luminaries were there. So because of that show, it's like one thing led to another, more popularity. A lot of crews out there were like, oh shit, Rocksteady's making money. So they started, some people came back into breaking because they saw that there was a bag to be made. And you know, that, you know, it led to us battling more people, performing at Studio 54, Peppermint Lounge, Mud Club, The Ritz, Columbia University, the Roxy, all these amazing places that people wish they can get into. And we're like 15-year-olds getting into these spots and performing, and you got like the Rolling Stones sitting in the audience, and they're watching us break at Studio 54. So I think, although people may have thought that it was dead to them, to us, you know, I mean, anytime you put a little shorty in front of breaking, you put a shorty in front of a cypher, people breaking, the little shorties get excited, and it's the only thing that organically makes people just respond on the spot and try to do it. So I think that's one of the beauties of like the element of hip hop that we call breaking.
All right, we'll rock the scene of the Funky 4+1 and maybe Double Trouble. We know that the soup rap, you know, is one of the iconic parts of Wild Style. We saw it remade, you know, Sprite did their thing, but the soup rap always stood out. Can you explain to the people, you know, for those that might not know, you know, it sounds kind of random. You know, they try to hold us back from fortune and fame. You know, people might not know who the day is and what exactly happened. Scoop rap is based on what had just happened with your group.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, I want to just say thank you for inviting me to be a part of this festive occasion. Wow, I got a lot to say, but I'm trying to make it quick. Basically, we were signed to Sugar Hill as the Funky 4 plus one more, and then we became the Funky 4 plus one. Then the group ended up splitting. Okay, so after the split, the rhyme was talking about what we went through, right? Here's a little story that must be told about two cool brothers that was put on hold. They tried to hold us back from fortune and fame. They destroyed the crew and they killed our name. They tried to step on our egos and walk on our pride. But true blue brothers stand side by side, through thick and thin, from beginning to end. The battle we lost, but the war we'll win. Woo! So basically, it basically was our response to what happened with the group. You know what I mean? I'm grateful and thankful that was able to be a part of giving birth to this thing we call hip hop. You know, so I've been in a couple of groups. I've had a nice career. You know, and at that point, that was what we was talking about. You know, what actually happened to us with Sugar Hill, and I think that was a tragedy because we didn't actually get the opportunity to reach our full potential. You know what I mean? Because we only put out one single, people kind of look at it like that wasn't really nothing or it's not important. But what I do want to say is it was one of the first. That's all I got to say.
I would like to add, if I could, something to the story. So the intent, the Funky 4 plus one more plus one was, me and Charlie is one of our favorite groups. Shy Rock was incredible. So the plan was that they were going to be featured in the film as well. The entire Funky 4 was going to be in the film. Where we filmed, what was that club, Charlie? The Dixie Club. The Dixie Club in the Bronx, where we filmed a lot of the performances, was A to the K and all that happened, was right up the street from where Rodney lived at the time. So we was right in the neighborhood. So we'd oftentimes go to Rodney's house, kick it, went on a break. So we saw Rodney all the time, and we were really excited about that's the scene coming up where it was going to go down. So Rodney would share what was going on with the group. I was like, wow, hopefully they can work it out. I thought they were going to be able to work it out. And I'll never forget, I was on the set one day and Rodney came and told me what had happened. I was shocked. He said, yo, Fab, the group split up. I said, I was numb, and Rodney said, but listen to this. And he spit that rhyme right there. It was so moving at the time. It was so real. I literally shed a tear. And we knew when I shared what happened with Charlie, we knew that they was going to be in the movie. And it was just sad that we couldn't feature the whole group as we intended. But we had loyalty to Rodney. We had become family. Like I said, right up the street. His brother would be there. His moms, you know, Angie, cousins running around. Like
they was in and out my house like they lived there.
Right. We was. True. You know? So that's a part of that story I wanted to share. I'm gonna share one more with y'all. So because of my tight relationship with Chris Stein and Debbie Harry from Blondie and schooling them on what this was, playing these live tapes and breaking it all down, they was mad open. So when they got to host Saturday Night Live, they said they get to pick who the supporting group is gonna be. And they wanted to bring somebody hip hop on, and they read, who do you recommend that we used? And so I had schooled them on Cold Crush, Fantastic, Flash and the Furious, but the similarity with a group with a female out in the front like that was a no-brainer. I said, well, Funky 4 plus 1, boom, boom, boom. So that's how the Funky 4 plus 1 got to be the first rap group to perform on national TV, Saturday Night Live.
Can you tell us about how did the writing of that go? Did you and KK just sit down and write that straight out?
Well, basically what happened was after the group split, I went into a depression state for about 6 months. And then I decided that I wasn't gonna give up. So I started writing those rhymes, right? I would see KK in the neighborhood, but we wasn't hanging out no more. But when I would see him, I would say whatever I wrote, and he'd be like, yeah, that's hot, that's hot. Then we decided that we would get back together. Excuse me, my mouth. You good? Give me 1 second. Yeah. So, when I would see him, I would say the rhymes or whatever, and then we decided that we were going not to give up. So they tried to hold us back for fortune and fame, destroyed the crew, killed the name. So we were just not giving up. So that was the whole thing. That was Double Trouble's response to the industry, what was going on. Like in the beginning, we really didn't know about the business. I tell all artists that I meet today, when they tell me, yeah, we got bad, I got robbed, they took my money, whatever. And I would say to them, I say, you know what? The only difference between me and you is that it happened to me first. So whatever you went through, I knew you was gonna go through it. Why? Because I went through it first.
Understood. All right, so I got a question for Charlie. It's going to pertain really to everybody. I want to confirm Japan was first Wild Style was first premiered in Japan. Is that correct?
The first place that Wild Style was ever shown on the planet was in Japan. And they were doing like a week of nights in Japan. And the Kazooies that we were working with got wind of this thing. And they said, whoa, hold up. You don't have a night week. We got something else. And they told them about Wild Style. And this led to, we brought the entire crew of Wild Style to Japan.
Yep.
Is that right, Kaz? You all went to Japan.
Hell yeah.
So
30 deep.
we had Rodney C. We had 35 people in Japan staying in hotels, flying around in jets. Busy Bee.
The Sheik.
The Sheik.
Yes. Busy Bee was the Ayatollah of rap.
All right.
Let's call it what it was.
Facts.
Which meant he wore a white hand cloth over his head with a band and dark sunglasses. People were shocked wherever we went. Crazy Legs was there, was he not?
Yeah, I know another story about Busy Bee, but we won't get into
We ain't
that
gonna get
one.
into all that.
We're gonna
We
do
all
that.
know stories.
That's for the adult
Let's not
section.
talk about the Japan
The
trip
adult
in too much
section.
detail.
Japan was amazing. Okay.
The plane was even better, though.
Oh, the flight going over was amazing. No, but the fact that we can actually claim, I mean, it's legitimate. We brought hip hop to Japan. Okay,
We brought hip-hop to the world.
when we landed in Tokyo, they had no idea what hip hop was, what we were doing, what we were talking about, what we were saying. Okay. But by the time we left, we could see signs that they had already started to try to adapt the culture. We went into clubs when we first got there and asked the DJs, could we get on? Took that big, thick-ass rubber mat off the turntable, put like a felt, and was scratching. Yo, they were standing next to us like, so you go to well. I ain't trying to make fun, but I'm just saying. They was amazed. And before we left, we went back to those same clubs.
Osaka. That's right.
Osaka,
Club in Osaka.
you know what I mean? Seibu, you know what I mean? All that, and they had started trying to do
That's right.
what we saw them do.
Hey.
They set up squares in Tokyo, on streets in Tokyo, put up sound systems and stages, and we just started rocking.
Hey, yo.
We just started rocking.
You remember that department store that we was in?
Seibu.
The joint had a disco in the joint. Like you could be shopping out there and then come inside and like we are here.
It's a club.
It was a club. That was crazy.
The size of Macy's.
Yes, it was.
Awesome experience, y'all. Awesome experience, man.
And I'm gonna tell y'all, we not gonna tell the story of what happened to me and KG.
Oh.
Y'all want to tell that story?
When the
talking about that earlier.
Yakuza was knocking on the door and they was coming for us, we had to get the hell up on out of there.
Hey, but they what happened was you guys were the wrong guys that they were looking for.
Exactly.
They were looking for Buck 4 and Kuriaki.
And Kuriaki.
Yes. Yes. One of the Yakuza sisters was with Buck Four and Kuriaki, they came knocking on the door. Me and KG was with. It was crazy.
Zoom.
For real.
Hey, y'all remember them girls y'all had in the room? They ran inside the bathroom. That's what made you panic, because they wasn't looking for y'all. But because y'all couldn't speak Japanese,
too much
and them girls
information.
ran in the bathroom, y'all ran out the door.
Listen, I went to the peephole, and you know it was like a distorted image of a very mad Japanese man screaming at me, and I'm like, I don't think this is the hotel security. This looks a lot more serious.
And you should let KG expound on this, because KG is the one they chased down the hall.
Shit, I ran too. Shit.
I know. In their underwear.
Me and Freddie was running, but you know, we made it to Steve's room. And we
Somebody
were safe.
opened their door. Everybody else wasn't letting us in. Somebody opened their room and let us in.
And you know those black like things that the cops have?
Yes.
And you just like whip that shit out
That's
and
what
it's
he
this
had.
long?
Yes.
They was chasing them down the hall with them shits.
Yes.
Hey, since we talking, I could tell the plane story then.
Don't tell the
I
plane
think
story.
I really-
No.
I'll save it for the documentary.
Yeah, save that for the doc.
We've come here to honor you guys, not incriminate anyone.
Right.
Hey, the statute of limitations are up. We're good.
And we just put it like this. We just put it like this. We had the first. We just put it like this. We had the first Soul Plane.
Yes.
We did Soul
Say that.
Plane before Soul Plane
Say
was
that.
out.
And I'm gonna take me and Africa Islam will take credit for that one.
That's a good one.
Fuck it. Let me tell you what happened.
No.
We don't want anyone, divulging things that may change our perception. Here's what we're going to do. We've enjoyed speaking with you, inductees. We're going to ask you to please take a seat as we invite the fans